Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Bonnie.
We're the Playing with String organizing team. We're here with Scarves for Hope with Rikki today. How are you doing, Rikki?
I'm doing well. It's going pretty well this morning. It's a bit rainy, but people are coming out and I've already sold some yarns.
Nice. Tell us about your Scarves for Hope.
Well, Scarves for Hope started a few years ago. I started crocheting scarves and I had a bit of a stockpile and I was trying to sell them kind of locally just for my own benefit sort of thing. And then I went to Ethiopia with Hope International Development Agency, totally separate, and I got to see what they do there and the clean water projects that they work on and the difference that it makes in people's lives. It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing, day and night. And so when I came back, I decided I wanted to raise some more money for Hope International. So I started selling scarves. And they went fairly well. It went over really well here at the farmers market. And about a year and a half ago, I started trying to dye yarn. I was thinking, well, maybe if I dye my own yarn, because I like to use the merino and the really nice stuff, right? But it gets expensive. So I thought if I dye my own yarn, then I can keep my costs down. So I tried dyeing my own yarn, and I really, really liked it. And it got a little out of control. So here it is at the farmers market.
Nice.
So we all benefit.
Yeah. So I keep myself going. I sell it, I make more.
Nice. And how long have you had Scarves for Hope then?
I started selling probably in early 2018 or late 2018.
Nice.
So I guess about 3 years now. Just
Yeah.
3 years.
And have you been primarily at the farmers market and other markets?
Yeah, mostly farmers market. I was at the all vendors market indoor during COVID
Okay, yeah.
last year for a little bit, and now I'm back here at the farmers market. So. And
Nice.
I've got a little bit on Facebook Marketplace sometimes.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
In your dyeing process, tell us a little bit about your, like you obviously you decided you were going to dye your yarn and you just set out and did it. So tell us a bit about how you...
Well, when I first started, of course, I didn't want to spend a lot of money in case I didn't like doing it, and I didn't want to have a bunch of, stuff lying around. So I bought 4 skeins of blank yarn, and I used food coloring, which you can use with your own food-safe pots and pans. It didn't cost me anything extra except for a little bit of yarn. And so I started that way, and I was hooked immediately. So I thought, okay, well now I'm going to try the acid dyes, right, which are more light fast and more wash fast. And so I started with like 8 colors from Jacquard acid dyes, and I just started playing with them and mixing them and seeing what I could come up with, and then my collection of dye colors grew. And so now you can combine colors in such creative ways, even ways you don't even think they're going to combine. Like some of these are, dipped. You dip one end in one color and the other end in another color, and you get sort of a variegated skein like that. This one here is really neat because some of the colors the dyes break, which means they kind of break down into their base colors. So this is a green. It's called avocado, but you can see it's got gold and brown flecks in it. But that's all one color. It's all one dye. But when I put it in the dye pot, I put it in a cool vat with the dye and just left it for a few days to sit, and it broke. And so I get all these brown and gold flecks in with the green, which is, I think, it's really
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got some of these, like this one here, and all of these have been dyed in the sun. So I take the yarn and I put it in a mason jar and I sprinkle the dye in as I'm adding the yarn, and then I fill it with water and citric acid and put it out in the sun when it's really hot, and it moves the dye, the colors move around and mix, and the sun sets the dye.
Nice.
And then I just have to steam it in the kitchen and it's done. And so you get all kinds of random stuff I can't repeat.
Yes,
It's
of
very,
course.
very random. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. I started that during the heat wave because I didn't want to use my stovetop.
Yes.
So,
Definitely a good way to utilize the solar and the heat
yeah.
that we were
Might as
having.
well. Yeah, and then some of them are, what else have I got here? This is, It's a yellow, but it's a mixture of a couple of different yellows, and then I've over-dyed it in a really pale kind of gray. So it's got a different kind of a, it'll have very different tones to it. Like you've got yellows and almost oranges, and then some lighter gray yellows in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And your ombres there too.
Yeah, and I've got, these are fun. They take a lot more time, but
Yeah.
I really like how they turn out.
Yeah.
And I wish I could do more. Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
So are your scarves crocheted from your own yarn or a mixture?
Well, it's kind of a mixture. I think I've got one left. It's the purple one there on the other rack in the middle.
Oh, I
That
see
one,
it.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to.
So that one's made of my own. I've actually sold all the ones that I made from my own dyed yarn.
Okay.
Because I started crocheting long before I started dyeing yarn. I have a stockpile of store-bought yarn to use up.
Of course.
A lot of my scarves are still store-bought yarn, but they're pretty cool.
Very beautiful.
And now I'm starting to use more. I haven't actually bought yarn in a very long time.
This is very pretty.
That is a soft weight. It's a mixture of merino wool and bamboo. And it's
Yeah.
a really pretty combination.
Yeah.
It is. Nice.
And with the stitch
Yes.
and the color work, it looks really good.
Do you work from patterns or do you just kind of make up your own crochet stuff as you go?
A little bit of both. I find a lot of patterns on Pinterest. And people have asked me, oh, will you share your patterns? I said, well, they're on Pinterest, so you can go right ahead and find them. But yeah, I sometimes have like a stitch pattern that I'll start with, but then I'll modify it to do a different shape, like a triangle shape instead of a square or whatever. And sometimes I'll make up the trim by myself, or sometimes I won't. I just start with the skein of yarn and just go until it's done. There's not enough to do another row.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So how long have you been here in Prince George?
Well, I've lived here my whole life. So I'm born and raised.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I've done a lot of outdoors activities. I used to do a lot of hiking and I do some kayaking. And so when I try to think of names for colors, I try to name them after natural or local stuff, right? So I think I've called this one Ancient Forest.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. It'll be gray and green and brown.
Nice.
And what else have I got? I've got this one here that I call Ulatazella Lake, which is Graveyard Lake, but there was a fire out there a few years ago, and now it's all green, and
Okay.
so everything's growing back, but you still have your dead standing trees out near the water, and so it looks really gray, and it's kind of
Right.
but
Cool.
there's green underbrush everywhere because it's all coming back, right?
Yeah.
So that's what inspired that one.
Nice. Really cool.
Not all the colors are named because I'm not that creative with all of them. So. Sometimes they're just blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, these are absolutely gorgeous. You do beautiful work.
You do. That blue and gold one.
Oh, this
What
one
one is that? Is that has the
It
name?
doesn't have a name, but I don't know what to name it, but it's really, I really like the way it turned out.
Yeah.
I made a scarf out of this not too long ago, and it sold within about an hour of putting it up
Oh wow.
on the rack there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful color.
It is. So when I noticed that there's mostly just like one of each color, is that what you do, or do you sometimes do multiples?
I'm trying to do multiples. I do more multiples now, but of course what happens sometimes is I'll do a pair, but then somebody comes along and buys one.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you only need one, you only need one.
Yeah.
So I go and I dye more. So now when I'm dyeing things, I try to do a minimum of 2 at the same time, and trying to get into, once my skills are improving, I get getting into 3 or 4 at the same time, so I can have actual dye lots that need something.
Yeah. Nice.
So a large shawl would be
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, right now, if you wanted to make a large shawl, you could either combine colors, or you can let me know you need 4 skeins of the same color, and I can do them all at once. So
Right.
That's good to know.
that works.
Yeah.
How long does it take for you to do a dye process?
It depends on the technique. Something like this, where I've kind of dipped both ends in the middle, and that might take maybe an afternoon. But I can do like 3 or 4 of those at the same time as I'm doing something else, a different color as well. So it doesn't take too long. But then something like this where I'm using the sun to set it, or like this where I'm using a cool bath method, they can take a couple of days. So yeah. Anywhere from this afternoon to a few days. But then they just sit there, like when they're in the sun. I don't have to do anything with them. They just sit there. So I go and dye something else while they're
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I get leftover dye. There's always sometimes there's stuff left in the pot. Sometimes, I'll measure out certain amounts of dye that I think I'm going to use, but then I don't use it all. And so sometimes I'll combine it into like one container, and then I'll dye just one random skein or two, depending on what it's doing. So that's how this one came about. It was leftover bits of red that I couldn't measure or calculate anymore. I didn't know exactly what the definition would be. So I dumped it in the pot to see what happened, and there it is.
That's awesome.
We try not to waste any dye or pour it into the sink or anything. If there's stuff left in the pot, you just stick a blank skein in and it soaks it up.
There you go. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Rikki.
Yes,
Thank you.
That was awesome. Learn about you and Scarves for Hope. That's so awesome. Take a quick shot of this.
Yeah. It's the cause right there.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.